Excellent.
I want to move on to you had a very exciting weekend last weekend. You did your very first silent meditation retreat. I want to hear all about
Oh
it.
my gosh. It was awesome. So I did it over New Year's. So it was a 3-day retreat up in Malibu, and it was hosted by Against the Stream. They're a wonderful organization.
I didn't know that. I love them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're so Against the Stream. Their website is againstthestream.org. They have retreats, they have day-long meditation, day-long classes. They have a lot of things going on in Santa Monica and Hollywood. But this retreat was up in Malibu, and it was a silent retreat. There was no signal, which was awesome. And it, you know, 3 days of silence, and when they say silence, they also mean like no eye contact, no, it was just really, you're kind of just supposed to be in your own bubble. And we alternated between sitting meditation and walking meditation throughout the day. And then each day there was like a Dharma talk. But I'm someone who has studied mindfulness, has studied it for a very long time. I have a pretty good knowledge of it as far as as far as a therapist, as far as the work that I've done, of understanding the concepts. And I've done off and on, had a practice over the years, but to actually spend time sitting for 3 days and really just kind of experiencing it was something I've never experienced. I mean, it was just really like it was so meaningful to actually experience it over an extended period of time. Um,
Were there any struggles with it? Because I know when I did mine, I don't know. In the shorter ones, I don't think I had it as much, but in some of the longer ones, I remember just having days of just. I mean, it felt like torture at times, like
yeah.
to just sit with yourself. And once you got out of it and you relaxed, it was glorious and so worth it. But did you have any of those kind of moments
I
or?
had a couple really short moments, but I think because this was a short retreat, it was 3 days. So for me, it was a good, kind of start a retreat. But I definitely, by the end of the year, would like to do either a 7 or a 10 day to really kind of experience that. And because I think I wasn't completely brand new to meditation
Right.
overall, I was able to like sit for the 3 days without it being like just completely feeling like torture at any point. There was a lot of boredom. That just, it amazes me how bored I was able to, how I would get so bored and just what my mind would do to kind of entertain itself. Like I'm somebody who I constantly have music in my head. I wake up with a song in my head, and usually like the same song will be on repeat throughout my head throughout the day. And so when I was there, it was just interesting kind of realizing that I think it's kind of a boredom thing that like there's
Right.
kind of music playing in my head. And so just noticing those little things, and also noticing, that experience of being around people and eating meals together, and even having a roommate, and not talking to each other, and how much how much of interaction in our communication really does go on in our own heads without the interaction, without the eye contact, without the talking and the actual communicating. There's so much that I realize just goes on in my own head about my interactions with other people. So that was really cool and enlightening to see and experience. And it was also just nice to do it over New Year's. And so, we did some ritual over the new year that evening to kind of do some letting go and set some intentions. And it was raining, and like it rains rarely in LA. And so it was a rainy weekend, and it was it was beautiful just kind of being up there. It was at a really pretty camp facility. And so, yeah, it was awesome. But I honestly, New Year's Day, which was when it ended, I was sad that it was over. I was sad I had to go back down the hill, and my phone was going to start dinging again, and real life was going to happen. I was like, I could do a couple more days of this. So I'm looking forward to doing it to kind of really strengthen my practice going forward. And also I noticed the effects afterwards, which were kind of cool. For me, just less interest in, just less kind of craving for anything, craving for entertainment, craving for food, craving for just any kind of, things. Like normally, I came home and there were things that I had missed or shows that I had missed. And normally I would like get excited and plop down. Okay, I'm going to watch this and this, and I didn't have any interest in those things. Now, granted, it didn't like last forever. It was
Right.
a couple of days before,
It never does.
I was wrestling with those, with those cravings again that are very much real life. But I could see how, it gets easier the more practice you do, how it would get easier. So that was nice.
Yeah, I remember I did a 10-day and I came back to LA and I had the first thing I had to do was I had an agent meeting with a new agent. And first time we were ever meeting, and she was the first person I was going to speak with in 10
wow.
days. And I remember I like got into her office and I said hello and she goes, "Wow, you're a very centered person, aren't you?" And I was like, I don't even know how to speak to you right now. Like I couldn't verbalize words. I just like kept looking at her. It was insane.
Oh, that's ridiculous. So centered, and you're like, I can't form words.
But it was because I was like, and it was weird because it was because I was totally present, like I was hyper aware and I was just like there waiting for the next thing to happen, as opposed to normally I'm in those situations and I'm thinking, okay, I have this whole script in my head of things I should say and things I shouldn't say and how to keep the conversation going if there's a lull in the conversation and all this stuff you think about when you're basically at an interview, and none of it was there. I was just there. And
you're just in the moment. Yeah.
And it's funny because she noticed and she sent me an email after about how wonderful the conversation was and she wished all her meetings would go that way. So it's funny because we do all these things to try to, I'm talking about prepping and having, trying to control things as much as we can in a situation. And a lot of times doing that just makes it not worse, just makes it more challenging, I would say.
Yeah.
Than if you're just
out of the moment.
Yeah.
It takes us out of the moment when we do the prep and the rehearsal and all of that. Then we're thinking about those things rather than just actually being in the moment with that person. And so, not saying that prep and preparation for interviews is like not a good idea. Please prep for your interviews, people. But recognizing that at some point we have to kind of be able to shift and let the prep go and be able to just be in the room,
And I mean, as an actor, that's the number one is you do all this prep work and then you're in a scene and you have to let it go. If you're worrying about the prep work, you're not going to be there when you need to be there. Yeah. So what was your biggest takeaway from the 3 days?
My biggest takeaway was just practice. Like really just spending the time sitting and experiencing it. It's like meditation, mindfulness is such an experiential process. And so for me, that was the biggest takeaway is like, I can I can approach this very academically and learn all about it and learn all the things and the concepts and read all the books, but none of that compares to what I get when I'm able to just sit down and actually experience it for myself. So it really just, I came home with a renewed dedication to my practice. And I think, over the years, I've, come and I've gone back and forth with my practice, but I think because I didn't experience something like this, it was harder to be more patient with it. I think that was a bigger takeaway too, is like, one of our teachers explained that, we're cultivating something. We're not, we're planting seeds right now and we can't plant the seeds and then like an hour later look for what we planted to have grown and sprouted. We have to plant the seeds and trust that over time, we cultivate this, that it will make a difference. And so I think for me that's helped because I think I've definitely always had this like impatient, like, okay, I'm going to learn all about it and I'm going to do a 3-week meditation challenge and then I'm going to have it, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. And so yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is patience and practice.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking about this earlier today. I have a very not I have a negative visceral reaction in when people start talking about intentions within their mindfulness practice or within yoga or with everything, and I'm completely aware it's an ego thing on my part, and it's just the associations I put onto the word.
Hmm.
But it my the way I my issues with word are a lot of what you're talking about is it for me, when I think of an intention, I think of trying to get somewhere or trying to force something. And someone once told me, oh, you should just, I mean, it is the same thing, but you should just stop calling it intention and calling it attention. Where are you putting your attention, or what's
Hmm.
at attention? And it's, I don't know why this rant has really nothing to do with what you were talking about, but it just reminded me of it. It was like complete A to C. But it's just interesting how just using the different word or having a different type of awareness changes so much, which is kind of what I think you're saying. It's just that
Yes.
subtle shift makes such a big difference.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I think for me that subtle shift was in the actual experience of it. I was able to like, oh, okay, now I see how this can work. And so that's helped me shift my just how I approach it altogether, which is really kind of a cool thing to happen where it's not something that I'm like fighting to do or like, guilting myself like, oh, still haven't done that thing today. It hasn't been, I haven't approached it in that way. So yeah, I think those subtle shifts, which is really what, I think mindfulness teaches us is that
Right.
those little subtle shifts can make all the difference. So
Yes, and for anyone who's listening or watching who is thinking about starting a mindfulness practice, we don't talk about this enough, I don't think, but there's so many resources out there, and it doesn't require you to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars or any money at all. You can literally, there's multiple videos on YouTube that can teach you how to do it. I know there are places that do live streaming every morning or every night where you can actually sit with people live and meditate. Their meetup.com in most cities will have meditation meetups that are free or small donation. Um, yeah, I mean, I have my own agenda because I have an ego issue with people who charge a lot of money to teach people how to meditate. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah, so there's just so many places. There's Buddhist temples, and I know that scares some people, but the vast majority of them are not pushing um, any kind of dogma.
right.
Some are, and if you go to that and that's not your thing, then don't go back. But a lot of them are just practice based because that's really the point of them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's also an organization for schools called Mindful Schools or mindfulschools.org where they're actually bringing mindfulness into schools and it's completely non secular. So
Yes.
that's an option as well. So I think,
We
when I was first exposed to mindfulness and meditation, one of my first thoughts with it was, man, I wish someone had taught me this when I was like little, so I think it's great that there is there's a push now to get it in schools, which is really great too.
Yeah, and we can and will probably do an entire segment on that because there's
Yes.
been great research done on the topic, and schools that have implemented it have found drastic behavioral improvements and social improvement. Um,
Yeah, let's do
that's
that one soon.
I know.
That's a good
Maybe
time.
we'll do that next.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
know.
So I want to end with a quote.
Yes.
And this quote really sums up the experience for me um, of going to retreat and what it really meant to me. So knowledge is only rumor until it lives in the bones. And that is a quote from the Asaro tribe. So knowledge is only rumor until it lives in the bones. And so for me, I was able to really incorporate that knowledge into the bones with retreat.
I love that.
Well,
Okay, now I need to go meditate. I'm just in that place, right?
all right.
Yes. So everyone have a good one and catch us online at Civil D TV, and I'm at Jayme Woj, Jayme.
And I'm at Mindful Marilyn. Thank you guys. Have a good
See you
night.
next time.